So today is actually the winter solstice. Today is the shortest day of the year. And it's a sacred moment inviting reflection and renewal and hope. Just as the birth of Jesus symbolizes new beginnings, the solstice reminds us to honor both the dark and the light within and around us. As we enter this holy season, may we release what no longer serves us and open our hearts to deeper joy. Today we also lit the final Advent candle, the candle of joy. And joy comes last. Metaphysically, the Christmas story is a journey of spiritual transformation and joy. It's the greatest story ever told. And we're going to talk about that greatest story. It's a story that you've heard many times. You actually heard me talk about it last year. And we celebrate Christmas, the birth of Jesus Christ. However, we believe that Christmas story is not just to be told one day of the year. Rather, it is a story that takes place within us each year as well. Christmas is not a celebration to honor an event that happened to just one person long ago. It's a story about the birth of the Holy Child within all of us. The story honors the presence of love within each and every one of us. It's a happening, an event, a real celebration. It is the quickening of the power of joy in our lives. It is a happening of our mind and heart and spirit as we once again create a loving environment in which the new birth can take place. The holy birth. The specialness of this season occurs again this year. As I light these candles that represent the main characters in the story, I invite you to think of them as they live in you. For each of them represents a part of your soul. And you are here today to bring a new birth into your soul. The Christmas story is happening within you. So let's start with the journey. Journey is one of the most important mythic symbols of transformation. The journey Mary and Joseph took from Nazareth to Bethlehem represents profound change, where their newborn child becomes the center of their lives and transforms a couple into a family. Metaphysically, this journey symbolizes the birth of our own Christ consciousness. It illustrates the inner rebirth through which the higher self emerges as the center of our awareness, integrates our being, and transforms our lives. The Christ mind represents the higher or true self within every person. This is a mystical journey to the place within ourselves where we discover both our full humanity and our divinity, our own inner Bethlehem. Even the 12 powers are represented within the Christmas story, reminding us that this ancient narrative is also a blueprint for our spiritual awakening. So the Christmas story takes place when the era of Herod the Great was coming to an end. Charles Fillmore taught that Herod symbolizes the ego in sense consciousness, the part of us that does not understand our true spiritual origin or the deeper laws of our being. This ego consciousness is narrow, jealous, reactive, and ultimately destructive. The Christmas story marks the end of that inner era and the beginning of a new one. The shift unfolds within us when we develop a grounded sense of who we truly are. The Christ, our higher self, holds infinite potential of expression. While we inhabit human bodies, we live in both realities. We are human and finite, yet also spiritual and infinite. Our sacred assignment is to transcend the limits of our human identity so we can become a fuller, individualized expression of the Christ. Spiritual transformation is the goal. Until we step into this transformative journey, the ego remains at the center, revolving around its own concerns. When the Christ consciousness awakens, a new era begins, one guided by clarity, compassion, and divine purpose. So I'm going to light a candle for this transformational process, for letting go of the ego, for the power of release. I had a divine idea to create a candle myself, so I don't have to mess with this. Months before Mary learned she would give birth to the Christ, the three magi had already seen the star. Metaphysically, the star represents divine ideas, truth revealed from God. The star that guided the wise men symbolizes both the idea and the indwelling Christ, and the power of that idea to lead us toward realization. Only the wise men saw the star, because only the wise within us can perceive and follow spiritual truth. When something awakens our inner magi, our inner wisdom, the journey to Bethlehem begins. This stirring affirms a deep spiritual conviction and a rising aspiration within the soul. Following the star, responding to the inner guidance, is the very essence of wisdom. I'm going to light a candle for the power that leads us to the realization of truth. I light this candle for the power of wisdom. Mary rode over 100 miles on a donkey. Donkeys are known to be stubborn and persistent. These are traits expressed by the lower nature of human beings. This is our ego. They rode from Nazareth to Bethlehem. They encountered the crowded inn and much more on their journey. Mary and Joseph represent spiritual understanding. They learned to deal lovingly and mercifully with every aspect of their psyche, even the stubborn parts. I light a candle for this power of spiritual understanding through our stubborn ego and persistence. Mary was an ordinary citizen, neither wealthy nor royal. This commonality carries deep significance for us. Mary represents the feminine aspect of the soul, receptivity, openness, and willingness to receive. When the angel Gabriel appeared and told her she would bear a son, she was completely surprised and struggled to comprehend the idea. She was stunned and confused, yet willing to serve this divine purpose. She had no idea how it could happen, how she could have a child without a husband. But she recognized that God's activity within the soul is greater than human intellect. This awareness that the divine can accomplish in us what we cannot do for ourselves makes it safe to imagine and embrace ideas that can transform consciousness. I light a candle for imagination, receptivity, and openness to all possibilities. After learning she was to give birth to the Christ, Mary hurried to visit her friend Elizabeth, who was also miraculously pregnant after many years of barrenness. This journey symbolizes the impulse to test the validity of an intuition received idea, especially one that seems impossible. Mary's encounter with Elizabeth validated Gabriel's message and strengthened her faith. Her confidence in the divine plan was affirmed, and in response she offered the prayer known as the Magnificat. It's in Luke 1:46-55, and it starts with, "My soul magnifies the Lord, and my spirit rejoices in God." Through this proclamation, Mary openly expressed her trust, joy, and alignment with the divine. I'm going to light a candle for the power of faith. Once Mary surrendered to faith, she also made the clear choice to move forward. Angels, like Gabriel, represent high divine ideas. Mary chose to accept and nurture this divine idea of giving birth to a child who would bless the world. When Spirit gives us a divine idea meant to bless our lives or the world, our first reaction is often, I don't understand this. I'm not smart enough. I don't have the time or the resources. We are so skilled at arguing for our limitations. I know I am. And if we don't yet recognize the divine within, we must cultivate that awareness. The inner voice says, you can do this. When we respond with a wholeheartedly yes, our lives are profoundly transformed. Practicing saying, I can do this. This is the essence of receptivity to the divine ideas and faith in the intuition that comes from above or from within. Divine ideas may appear as a gentle nudge. Take steps to create peace in your relationships, or do more to bring harmony into the world. What the divine idea is telling us is that Spirit wants to express through us, and God wants to act through us, but we must choose to align with it. In the Christmas story, Gabriel is not speaking only to Mary. This message is for all of us. We too are blessed with divine ideas. We too are here to bring forth gifts uniquely ours, to bless ourselves and the world. By using our faculty of will to align our actions with these divine ideas, we transform not only ourselves, but everything and everyone around us. I light a candle for the power of will, to seeing our gifts and the willingness to bring them to the world. Nazareth, where Mary and Joseph lived, was an ordinary place representing lower consciousness. Mary herself was an ordinary citizen, yet her story shows that to fulfill a higher purpose, they were guided to leave Nazareth. They had to make the arduous journey to a place of higher consciousness, a journey that required strength, perseverance, and courage. Nazareth exists within each of us. For some, it shows up in traffic jams, and when we feel frustrated by others' unwillingness to take responsibility for their lives. To receive divine ideas and step fully into our higher purpose, we must leave our own Nazareth, our lower state of consciousness, and move toward a higher, more expansive awareness. This inward journey demands strength, and it is necessary for transformation. I light a candle for the power of strength, which allows me to see my lower state of consciousness and do what it takes to rise above it. The shepherds represent the unconscious forces within us that protect and guard our most valuable human virtues, symbolized by the sheep. These virtues, which are honesty, prudence, temperance, courage, justice, clarity, and compassion, provide the foundation for expressing oneness with all that is. When the angel appeared to the shepherds and announced, "The birth of this child is for you, and you will bring joy to all the people," it indicated that the emergence of the Christ mind brings a profound inner transformation. They could leave their flocks unattended to seek the child because their sheep, their virtues, were in God's care and could never be lost. Awareness and cultivation of these virtues is an expression of divine love. They are thoughts aligned with God, faithful to the divine. True love, divine love, is the recognition of our oneness with all that is. I light a candle to shine on our virtues, the potential for oneness. I light this candle for the power of divine love. Order and balance are essential at every step of the journey for the Christ to be born. Even after the birth, maintaining order remained important. Joseph moved his family into a house, symbolizing the thinking nature of full acceptance of the Christ, to properly care for Mary and the baby. Just as Mary and the child held the center of the household, the welfare of our soul and the emerging Christ should occupy the center of our consciousness. They lived in Bethlehem, which means the house of bread, symbolizing sustenance. Metaphysically, the city represents a consciousness of omnipresence, substance of divine energy, providing all that is needed to create, sustain, and nurture the emergent Christ within. Bethlehem has no walls, meaning its blessings are open to all. It's situated on a hill, symbolizing the rise above ordinary peace of mind to reach the elevated state of consciousness where the Christ within can be realized. I light a candle for the power of order and living in our higher consciousness. The three gifts from the Magi, gold, frankincense, and myrrh, represent spiritual power. Gold represents the spiritual gifts and the riches of spirit, reflecting the consciousness of omnipresent substance and the limitless abundance of divine life. Incense symbolizes the process of transmutation. Even after the smoke dissipates, its fragrance remains, just as inner communion with God raises consciousness and produces outer transformation. Frankincense represents holiness and purity, the presence of God, and the shift from focusing on the material to focusing on the spiritual. Myrrh signifies the attracting power of love, peace, and bliss, pointing to the eternity of spirit. It symbolizes it's central to the Christmas story, highlighting that the Christ is eternal and ever-present. Together, these gifts reflect the spiritual qualities we cultivate in the inner journey toward Christ consciousness. I light a candle for the power or dominion and the riches of spirit. Zeal accompanies every step of our spiritual journey. As we travel to Bethlehem within ourselves, zeal equips us to protect the progress we have made toward Christ consciousness and to pursue higher thinking. Zeal is often described as God's unseen flow of life. Left unchecked, it can become hectic, frantic, or sizzle out when motivated by material gain. But when guided by love, wisdom, and understanding, zeal becomes balanced and powerful. Zeal enables us to respond fully to divine inspiration, directing our mental, emotional, and physical resources toward the realization of God's purpose. Joseph exemplifies this when he receives guidance in a dream to find a house and responds without hesitation. He acts willingly to protect his family and nurture its growth. This illustrates what happens when the spiritually inspired intellect works in harmony with zeal. When our faculties are spiritually aligned and zeal is active, we do not rely solely on our limited human understanding. God guides each step of the way. I'm going to light a candle for the power of zeal in all things. And last, hidden in the depths of the psyche, symbolized by Egypt, the Christ within is protected and nurtured by the thinking nature, which is Joseph, and the feeling nature, which is Mary. As a spiritual power within us, the faculty of life directs all other faculties toward the full development of higher self, the Christ idea we are meant to express. I light a candle for the power of life. So to summarize, we are all here on a journey of learning to live from our Christ consciousness, rebirthing that consciousness every year, every day, every minute. When we receive divine ideas but cannot see how to bring them to fruition in the usual way, it is a call to think outside the box. Often, these are not comfortable times, and our human minds cannot yet imagine how the idea will manifest. To be an opening for the divine, we must be receptive. We must be willing to serve the idea, to birth it in a way we may not yet understand, and to surrender to a greater purpose, one that can be expressed in our daily work, relationships, and in making the world better for future generations. When I carry a cloth bag to the grocery store, it's not just for me, it's for the children and grandchildren of tomorrow. Joseph and Mary's journey to Bethlehem, the house of bread, symbolizes leaving a place of mediocrity, consciousness, to enter a state where sustenance and divine ideas can manifest. From this openness, they bring forth Jesus, the way shower, to our Christ consciousness. Where in your life do you need to leave behind mediocre thinking to enter a consciousness of peace? When a divine idea comes, do you think, I'm not special enough? But who else would God ask if not you? You will feel prompted to rise to a higher state of consciousness, perhaps in a relationship lacking harmony, in caring for your body, or in serving the children of the world. The universe calls us to expect the unexpected. The journey to rebirthing the Christ mind within us is extraordinary. We all have the opportunity, but it requires openness and receptivity. Without it, we do not make a manger in our hearts and remain in a Nazareth state of mind, never finding the joy that comes from Christ within. As Paul says, the Christ in you is your hope of glory. Every character, dwelling, location, and item in the Christ story represents something within us, realized or latent, playing a role in our spiritual journey to Bethlehem. Each rebirth is unique. We each express the higher self differently, in ways aligned with the divine idea within us. We receive these divine ideas when we stop arguing for our limitations and ask, where is God in this? When we sit in prayer and meditation, when we ask for guidance, and when we listen. So take note of where and who you are today. When next Christmas comes, you can see how open and receptive you have been to birthing the Christ mind and recognize the joy that is brought into your life. I want to say thank you. I'm your sister companion in prayer, possibility, and power. I see you, I appreciate you, and I love you. Until we meet again, remember that you are blessed and a blessing.